Queer politics. 1 radical liberal, 10 is a radical conservative. New survey shows the LGBTQ plus average is a 3.9. A new survey conducted by the Independent Center of the Bullfinch Group on the LGBTQ plus Americans reveals significant insights into their voting preferences. For the upcoming presidential election, the headline of the survey is that the queer community is far more independent than may previously thought. Despite expressing more moderate views on many issues, the majority of the LGBTQ plus voters are inclined towards President Joe Biden over Donald Trump. The survey revealed that 30% of the LGBTQ plus voters consider themselves moderate, centralist, independent. Respondents were also asked to rate their political stance on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 indicating the most liberal and 10 being the most conservative. On average, participants rated themselves at a 3.9, which may be indicating a preference for politicians to hold a moderate stance at a 5. The survey also showed that overwhelming 73% of respondents considered LGBTQ plus issues equally or more important than other factors influencing their voting decision, like the economy and jobs. 43% expressed a definitive intent to vote for Joe Biden, while 13% leaned towards doing so, compared to 28% for Trump. These queer voters trusted Biden more to protect their rights, largely because of the Republican Party's stance on the LGBTQ plus issues, which makes equality a partisanship concern. A separate survey conducted by GLAAD also indicated that most of these voters favor Biden over Trump. Zeke Stokes, a consultant for GLAAD, explained that the trend for LGBTQ plus individuals voting for Democrats is largely due to the Republican Party's politicization equality. So that means you got to get out there and vote. I mean, make sure our rights are protected.
Long
everything else we
story
talked
short,
about.
get out and vote. What's crazy to me is that there are LGBTQ plus voters who love Donald Trump. It makes zero sense to me. He has literally never done anything right, in my opinion. So when I hear LGBTQ plus for Trump, I think, huh? What? Joe Biden obviously is taking my vote, but out of the two of them, would you not take who's going to Trump? Not I. Anyone here?
Not I. I think people are, with the dual spending power, the older people, they're making, in some cases, the two male couple or two women living together both have hopefully good jobs, right? They get brainwashed on, maybe the taxes that he was allowing wealthier people to pay less taxes. Maybe there's a problem. Maybe they're thinking that the immigration is a little stronger with him. When I just saw that Biden's policy for immigration was the toughest one that's ever come out just last week. So I think that they're watching too much propaganda. The reality is, I think our community still is not where we need to be, to my point earlier, that we still have a lot of fighting to do, that we should be really interested in what concerns us and our partnerships, our relationships, our household, everything that matters to us as LGBTQ community members. None of this don't say stuff would have ever happened if a guy named Ron DeSantis was not in office, right? So it's all about who you vote for, and I believe that in our world, we still have to vote social, and a social votes for Joe Biden or LGBTQ.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said about, a lot of people like to think about the political spectrum as a line from liberal to conservative,
It's not.
but it's also much more of a circle. And so what we also have to think about is the quote unquote liberals and conservatives. That line goes further. And then we have our what we call radicals and our reactionaries. And the radicals and reactionaries get closer together in terms of how they're willing to respond to the current system. And so I think what we might also be seeing within our community, and this is not a defense of anyone who thinks this way, but I think it's what we're seeing is people frustrated with the system and seeing Donald Trump as an alternative to the system, whereas Joe Biden is very much established and he's a very good figurehead almost for that established system, or the establishment, as people like to reference.
You know, the mere fact that we have a global audience, and we saw the statistics, there are people watching that are the Trump supporter. And I just would like to confirm that, you know, there are some very solid worldly views that were important, that were implemented, you know, start paying your fair share, and, you know, really tough on the border. I get all that. But if you're an LGBTQ community member, what matters to you most is your household, your people, everything. So, you know, you may see some of the things that might matter to you, but do they really matter to you and your household? And I just think that that votes Joe Biden. If you're a true LGBTQ community member and you want your community well served, that's your vote. If immigration and paying less taxes is more important to you than your gay daughter or son or grandson, then shame on you.
I think I might rustle a few feathers here, but I also think this is where my critique as a queer young black man is that white gays are also part of the problem with our community. I think we see, if you look at those gays for Trump and you look at the picture of their rallies, who's there? It's not people that look like me. You know, there might be the one or two that they station for the photo, but it's a pretty good picture of the Republican Party more broadly if you look at who's showing up to these events.
And I think a lot of people, like you said before when you were talking about taxes and things of that nature, a lot of people are more concerned about their pockets than they are any of the other social justice issues. They don't care about the Don't Say Gay. They don't care about the bathroom issues. They don't care about the woke stuff and all of that. I have family members who have voted for Trump previously and will vote for Trump again because they're voting their pocket. They're not thinking about that niece who happens to be a trans woman that's affecting, or their brother who happens to be a gay person. They're not concerning themselves with any of those things. The only thing that they're concerned about is their pocket, and it's really sad.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
It's really sad that that's the only thing that you're worrying about.
Right. And I think that even speaks to what a lot of the queer community considers equality. I think a lot of our community focuses on, like, for a lot of the queer community, marriage equality was like the end all be all.
You won.
Yeah.
More to do.
And it's like, but there's also like, what if we investigate why do married couples get certain benefits that non-married individuals don't get, and how that actually has an impact on all kinds of families, not just queer ones, but single mothers or single parents, I should say, for example, et cetera. Why aren't they getting the tax benefits that married couples get, right? So I think that there's this limited view to what is actually affecting queer people. People are talking about, wanting access to traditionally, I'll say straight male spaces, boardrooms, etc. But what are we doing to build our own power, right? Like, where is I don't necessarily, how many times can you bring a folding chair before you say, well, let's just host a different function?
That's really,
that was a lot. I agree.
Yeah, I don't think we should even be having this conversation if you really care about your community and you care about, your future children, grandchildren, the gay kids around this country, the transgender kids. If you care about them, you're voting Biden, because nobody on the Republican side, or very few, are stepping up for us and for our people. And at the end of the day, I think that's why we're all here, to serve our community and best serve our people.
Most definitely.
I'm sorry, can I actually just push back on the vote Biden thing, though? I'm not voting for Trump, and if it comes down to it,
whatever you want.
I will, if I have to, cast my ballot for Biden over Trump. But I think we also need to push back on this idea that Biden is here Biden and Trump are one of the same. They are cut from the same cord. The only difference is Biden is polished and understands Biden is a diplomat, I'll put it this way, and Trump is not. Biden has the political savvy to know to not say certain things, and we have seen him also falter. I mean, even if we look at when he was running, right, the interaction between him and Kamala when she called him out about the busing issue. If we look at Joe Biden's history, Joe Biden is not someone who we should be out here, oh, Biden is here to save the gays. Joe Biden has a base that will get him votes, but beyond that, he's the only option.
So we have to lean into
that. I also think what we're seeing too, and this goes back to another issue, is especially for younger voters, we are very disillusioned with Joe Biden. And I will say we need a ceasefire in Gaza. I will not sit here and promote and yell my praises to Joe Biden, who a lot of people in my generation feel should be called Genocide Joe. And so I'm not going to sit here and be quiet and say like, oh yeah, Joe Biden is our only solution. I'm very proud of all the people who went out and voted uncommitted in the Democratic primaries that we've been seeing. We need to be pushing for younger politicians. There's this is elder abuse at this point, and we need to rein this in.
So I agree.
This has been pushed already, though. This is not new news.
Okay, hold on. So I feel like if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. If those votes that people are not putting toward Biden, that they're putting towards uncommitted or whatever the case may be, to me, that's a vote that could be going towards Biden.
But this is in the primary, so this is part of the solution because it's in the primary where it's Biden versus no one, which is already a problem because how are we a democracy and my only two options are Donald Trump and Joe Biden? And you want to tell me that this is a democracy? There is a very important quote. I forget who it's from, but it says something along the lines of, I don't care who you vote for so long as I get to nominate everyone on the ballot. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party in this country are one party that drives the division between us to make us think they're different. And while we sit here debating the merits of Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, it is distracting us from the very real fact that both of those men are keeping the same system in power, that both of those men have no interest in actually changing our country in a way that benefits people, quite frankly, that look like me.
But one of those presidents, though, has brought more exposure to people like you, to more trans people,
it's marketing,
to women, but he really cares about showing the world that all of us at this table are just as capable of doing anything and everything anybody else could do, where there was a time in this world where they only thought that a rich white man could make a good decision. We've come a long way to everyone at this table having a voice.
So why did he think he was the most competent to run then? I feel there's a lot of non-old white guys that Joe Biden could have gotten behind and said, I support this person. But he was cocky enough to think that him, the old white guy who was Barack Obama's vice president, is a success. And it's sad to say that because I feel like...
I don't know if he thought that or if everyone else thought that.
But again, that's by design because that's the Trump versus Biden.
I think the DNC made the decision that nobody has...
One person's going to talk at once. One person's going to talk at once.
You know, if you look at the article, which we kind of strayed from a little bit, it says most GLBT want to be moderates. They want somebody that's in the middle. We're looking at the two extremes, and those are our two choices, two extremes, where the politicians hopefully are listening to this broadcast are saying, we're screaming for moderates. So we need somebody in that moderate category, in that gray area.
Well, there was a time for 100 years where the middle only won.
I agree with you in the sense Joe Biden and Trump are both wonky, but I agree with you in the sense any vote that isn't going towards what could possibly change our lives in the better, everyone's life for the better, is a vote that's not going to help. So I agree with many, many points here. I think that you are extremely correct in what you're saying. I think that unfortunately, though, this problem has been around for a really long time. Like Joe Biden has been in Congress for a very long time. Donald Trump has been in this game, although not in a presidential position before this, for a very long time. So the work has to start with like the tops, you know, and I don't know as a person in this seat how we get the word out that we need different options here for our president.
We do.
But that is what I gathered from this conversation, and I wouldn't know what steps to take to do that other than we have to all like storm the White House. And but I'm not even joking, because like what other steps, truly realistically, other than sharing it here on our platform? And everyone's point was correct, by the way. What more can we really do as opposed to get angered by it and then use that anger for passion and for change? What steps can be taken, really? Is there something is there a website I can learn more about? Like, what do I do from here? That's my question.
I think the DNC goes and finds a Vivek Ramaswamy that's articulate, young, smart, accomplished, because he's a threat to us, because he's going to be a Republican powerhouse, and he's so clearly in the middle on a moderate on all his stances. I watched many of his rallies. He loves trans people. He embraces the gay community. He wants equal rights. Vivek Ramaswamy could easily be a Democrat, and he's a guy that's, that young, powerful, stand up for America, let's do it right, serve equality. He's pretty good.
Adriana.
Well, who I'd like to see is a Hakeem Jeffries. I think Hakeem Jeffries is amazing, and I'm not in disagreement with your point and what you're saying, because at another time, way back when, before all this was done, I would be having this conversation. But where we are today, and November is around the corner, I don't want to hear anything else but let's vote for Biden at this
because there is no option.
time, because there is no other option but Biden or Trump. But I definitely understand what you're saying. And like I said, at a different time, maybe a couple years ago or before he was the nominee.
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that are going to say that about a month before the election, some really strange, crazy stuff is going to happen where it gets passed over to Kamala, she steps down, and a new summer. There's some crazy things. And, the world is crazy.
Yes.
So anything that could happen right up to that last minute, you might walk away with a big smile on your face.
And
Might maybe a Pete Buttigieg.
And that's
That
I was just going to
now
say
I have a
that.
smile on my face.